Lizzie Borden took an axe. She gave her mother 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41. That unsettling little rhyme has echoed through the decades, immortalizing Lizzie Borden, one of the most enigmatic figures in American criminal history. The story takes us back to a hot summer day in 1892, in the seemingly tranquil town of Fall River, Massachusetts, where a crime that would captivate a nation unfolded. On the morning of August 4th, Andrew and Abby Borden were found murdered in their home. Andrew was discovered on the sitting room sofa, his face gruesomely split in two, while Abby was found upstairs, her head similarly mutilated. The brutality of the attack suggested a rage so deep it seemed personal. The crime shook the community. Granted, Andrew Borden was not a popular man, but surely no one in their town could hate the man nor his wife so much they would commit such a gruesome crime. Right? With multiple questions but no answers, a town burning with curiosity turned their eyes to Lizzie Borden. But who was Lizzie Borden? Lizzie Andrew Borden was born on July 19, 1860, in Fall River, Massachusetts, to Sarah Anthony Morse and Andrew Jackson Borden. She had an older sister named Emma, with whom she was extremely close. After her mother's death, her father remarried Abby Durfee Gray. By many accounts, the relationship between Lizzie and Abby was strained and distant. Lizzie and Emma rarely referred to Abby as mother, preferring instead to call her Mrs. Borden. The family lived in a modest house in Fall River, a growing and industrious community at the time. Despite their wealth, Andrew was known for his frugality, which was somewhat at odds with the more affluent lifestyle the surrounding society expected the family to display. Living in the house at the time were only the maid, Bridget Sullivan, and Lizzie, Andrew's younger daughter. Lizzie was a church-going spinster of 32, known in the community for her charitable work, but also for her somewhat strained relationship with her stepmother, Abby. When the police arrived, it was Lizzie who calmly explained that her stepmother had received a note calling her out that morning, and that her father had lied down for a nap. On the morning of August 4th, 1892, Bridget was performing her usual duties. She had been feeling unwell, likely due to the heat and her demanding tasks, which included washing the windows. This illness became part of her testimony as she mentioned going to rest in her third-floor room around the time of the murders. Bridget claimed that she did not hear any disturbances while she rested, despite the violent acts occurring within the home. According to Bridget's later testimony, Lizzie informed her that Andrew Borden had been killed and instructed her to seek a doctor. After the arrival of the police and a neighborhood doctor, it was Bridget, sent by Lizzie, who discovered Abby Borden's body in the guest room upstairs. Lizzie was home at the time of the murders and quickly became the prime suspect. Despite the lack of conclusive evidence, she was charged with the murders. As detectives dug deeper, they found Lizzie's accounts of her movements that morning to be inconsistent. She reported hearing a groan and seeing her father dead without any signs of a struggle or an intruder. Lizzie's behavior in the days following the murders raised eyebrows. She was reportedly calm and composed when the bodies were discovered, and her account of her activities during the morning of the murders shifted during police questioning. Furthermore, Lizzie was seen burning a dress a few days after the murders, which she explained was stained with paint. Investigators speculated it might have been stained with blood. The trial began on June 5, 1893, in New Bedford, Massachusetts. It was a national sensation, widely covered by the media. Newspapers from across the country descended on Fall River, reporting every detail to a public hungry for information. It was most likely that Abby was killed first, between 9 o'clock and 10:30 a.m. She was struck on the side of the head with a hatchet, which knocked her down. As she lay on the floor, her killer struck her multiple times, inflicting fatal wounds to the back of her head. Andrew was murdered later, approximately at 11:10 a.m. after he returned home from his morning errands. He was taking a nap on the living room couch when he was attacked. Similar to Abby, Andrew was struck with a hatchet, receiving multiple blows to his face, which was so severe that his features were gruesomely disfigured. Lizzie claimed to have been in the barn during her father's murder, although her presence and activities during this critical period were never definitively established. Key pieces of evidence included a broken hatchet found in the basement, which was suspected to be the murder weapon due to its missing handle and freshly cleaned blade. In the courtroom, the prosecution presented the burned dress and the hatchet head found in the basement. The defense argued that the prosecution's evidence was circumstantial. No blood-soaked clothing was found linking Lizzie directly to the crime, and the hatchet handle, they claimed, could have been broken by anyone. They painted Lizzie as a devoted daughter, incapable of such violence. The defense also questioned the reliability of testimonies provided by the household maid and others, suggesting that the investigation was biased against Lizzie from the start. After the trial, the jury deliberated for only 90 minutes before acquitting Lizzie, citing the lack of direct evidence. And thus, Lizzie was released, a free woman once more. The acquittal was met with mixed reactions from the public. While some believed justice had been served, others were convinced of Lizzie's guilt and viewed the verdict as a miscarriage of justice. After the trial, Lizzie remained in Fall River for the rest of her life. She and Emma inherited their father's estate. They purchased a large home in a fashionable neighborhood of Fall River, where Lizzie lived under the name Lizzie A. Borden. Despite her acquittal, she remained a figure of suspicion and social ostracism. Emma and Lizzie eventually parted ways for reasons that remain unclear, and Lizzie lived the rest of her life in relative isolation. She died of pneumonia on June 1, 1927, in Fall River. Over a century later, the case remains unsolved, continuing to captivate the public imagination and influence various forms of media and scholarly discourse. The Borden house in Fall River has been converted into a museum and a bed and breakfast, attracting visitors from around the world. Guests can tour the house, learn about the details of the case, and for those more daring, even stay overnight in the rooms where the murders took place. And what of your thoughts? Do you believe Lizzie was the culprit? A daughter fed up with her father's coldness and filled with resentment towards the woman who replaced her mother? Or was it some shadowy figure with a grudge against the town pariah and his wife? The truth may forever remain just beyond our reach, lost in the mists of history. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed exploring mysteries with me and love historical true crime, don't forget to like and subscribe. Until then, stay curious.